Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I wanted to talk about why Malfeasance is one of the best PvE exotic weapons in all of Destiny 2 right now, and why many people might be sleeping on it. So, jumping right into why this weapon is so good, it is a 180 RPM hand cannon, and it's got the perks, corkscrew rifling, extended mag, and heavy grip. But where it gets really interesting is its intrinsic traits: taken predator, bonus damage against taken enemies and gambit invaders, as well as the intrinsic trait explosive shadow. Shoot tainted slugs that burrow into combatants. Stacking enough slugs causes them all to explode, stunning surviving combatants. Strong against unstoppable champions. What this means is this weapon essentially is good for chunk damage. You can put rounds into your enemies, and then you're going to see them all kind of take a massive chunk of damage at one time if you fill them with enough slugs. Now, the interesting thing is the damage fall off. You can hit enemies at massive ranges, like really far away, and the slugs don't lessen the amount of damage that they do. So you can essentially do a little bit of damage with the weapon, but if you hit all of your slugs with your 19 round magazine, you're going to see a massive chunk come off that enemy regardless of how far away they are. This is especially advantageous in activities like Gambit or something like Grandmaster Nightfalls, where you're going to be playing a little bit more cautious, especially if you're with randoms or if you have a team that is under leveled and you need to stay alive as much as possible. This weapon is phenomenal for that. The other reason this weapon has gotten better is twofold. One, it did get a buff last season in the mid-season patch alongside other hand cannons for PvE, which is nice. The damage at base on this weapon isn't all that good, but it does affect the tainted slug damage as well, so that is very helpful. Then also this season, in Season of the Deep, we got the Catalyst. This gives more range and also Vorpal weapon. Increased damage against bosses, vehicles, and guardians with their supers active. Again, the versatility of this weapon is going to be almost unrivaled, especially in various types of activities, because while you're not able to kill enemies as fast as something like an AR or an SMG, you are able to absolutely melt heavier enemies, so that frees up your energy slot for something that might be better for ad clear, like you can throw on a glaive, you can throw on a trace rifle. This season especially, a trace rifle works well because you're able to clear ads really quickly with a trace rifle while also stunning overload champions. So it just kind of combines really well with weapons like that. You definitely want to use Malfeasance more for your chunkier, heavier ads rather than fast ad clear. It's not going to replace an SMG or something like that. So you got to keep that in mind as a primary weapon. It's not going to be just melting through ads. So the other nice thing is that with ability builds these days being so prevalent and having so many options to absolutely decimate ads consistently, it allows you to really use the Malfeasance to take down those chunkier enemies and not really have to worry about clearing ads as fast as possible. There's not a lot of content in the game that has just an overwhelming amount of ads, so that's why I think this combines really well with that. You can use it for all types of different bosses as well. It's especially good, obviously, in the Lake of Shadows strike. If it's a GM, I would absolutely recommend running Malfeasance in that activity. If you have any other activities where you have an abundance of taken enemies, this thing is very, very good. And that's why in the gameplay, I'm showing off last season's Battlegrounds, because there are taken enemies. The taken enemies are weak. You're going to see me chunking down the enemies. Plus, there's unstoppable champions in that as well. So while this is older content, it is still relevant as far as power level and also relevant for this weapon because we don't have a Nightfall this week that needs an unstoppable weapon. So that's why I'm running this and wanted to show off this weapon as soon as possible. Other than that, I think this is a weapon that is very good, very viable, and I'm glad to see a hand cannon rise up as well. It's been some time since we've really seen a fully meta hand cannon that's been very, very good, especially in exotic. You look at Thorn is okay, but it's kind of replaced by Osteostriga. Not really as good. Lumina, you wish was better. Last Word is good for PvP. Ace of Spades, PvP, but none of those are very good for PvE. Crimson, again, PvP, and there's just not really, even Hawkmoon, I wish was better and shined in other locations, but there's really not one that is absolutely standing out. Sunshine is the only comparable PvE hand cannon that I think is pretty solid, and even that one is outdone at times by other weapons, so that's the unfortunate part there. Other than that, yeah, hand cannons have just not really kind of delivered on the PvE aspect. They don't do enough because you're able to clear everything so quickly with your SMG or AR or whatever weapon you want to use in that slot. Even sidearms right now are very, very good, so it doesn't leave a lot of room. But in my opinion, like I said, what you want to do is rethink how you're using your primary. You want to use your secondary now, instead of needing a secondary with like a linear fusion, or I'm sorry, a fusion rifle with chill clip or with something like Vorpal weapon. You can actually swap to that trace rifle and not feel like you're missing out on the chunk damage you need for bosses. And that's one of the major downsides of trace rifles, is that they just don't always do enough damage consistently. They're better for clearing a bunch of enemies at once or whittling down enemies over the course of time, just like Malfeasance. So I think that's where the difference lies and why I like this combo so much right now. I'd love to see more people checking out Malfeasance, so if you do so, let me know in the comments, is this a weapon you've been using? I have a buddy, Aston, who has been using it from quite some time, and I'm glad to finally hop on board this train. Let me know in the comments below, are you using Malfeasance as a weapon you are definitely going to be checking out this season? And if not, I want to know what other exotics you are really focusing on this season with all the changes that we got headed into Season of the Deep. Because there feels like there's a lot of viable options. You got Sweet Business now with its recent changes, so it has those explosive rounds and just a lot of different variations on weapons that long have been solid, but now could be really, really meta. So I'd love to hear from you guys on that. I definitely want to make this kind of a series where I test out some of the different exotics, see how they feel across different types of content. Malfeasance I've been using because I was getting the catalyst. I've been using it in PvE, I've been using it in Gambit, and it's been absolutely tremendous. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, helps me out tremendously. Shows you want to see more Destiny 2 content from me going forward. I have just about finished my artifact, so I will be throwing up a lot of builds here in the next week or so, so stay tuned for all of that, because that's going to be a lot of fun. There's so many viable builds right now that I am excited to show off. Anyway, my name is Jopa. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.